Hello everyone. Today we are back with some basic stuff that I wanna share before we actually start learning more about Fast API. These are some things that you would hear a lot from me, and I wanna make sure that you know the meaning of these. The first thing is request and response model. This is basically a model of communication on internet. So let's say you have your browser open and you enter a URL. Maybe you search something on Google. What happens is that your browser sends a request to a server. Now server looks at your request and sends back the appropriate response. So the next thing that you should know is a URL. A URL is something that points to a resource on internet. We even call it address in common language. Now one thing that I want you to notice is that after the domain name google.com, you have this word search, and this is known as a path. And after the question mark, you would see a variable ask. This is known as a query parameter, and you can and with a value what is an API. Now these two terms, path and query parameters, is something that you would hear a lot in Fast API. On internet, there are usually some basic operations you do. For example, creating a resource. Maybe you're creating a profile on some social media website. Second is updating a resource. Maybe you are updating something, maybe a profile picture of your profile. The next is deleting and reading a resource. So these are common operations, and they have been given some names in HTTP protocol. These are post for creating a resource, put for updating, delete for deleting, and get for reading a resource. There are many other operations, but for now I want you to be familiar with these only. The next is Web API, which is something that we build using Fast API. Imagine that you have some resources on your computer or on the server, and each of them have a URL. Web API is going to facilitate to access these resources through URLs, and how to process these resources, how to update a profile. All of these functions are made possible using a Web API. So yeah, it's an interface. The last thing I want to discuss is type hint in Python. Imagine you have this code for calculating the surface area of cube, and I ask you a question. What is the type of this parameter? Now you may say that it's integer. I say it's float. It can be anything. So we do not know what the type of this is. And imagine there is a big software where there are multiple developers working. It's difficult for everyone to be on same terms without any hints. So Python have type hints for solving this problem, and this is something that Fast API utilizes a lot. Now it's very clear that the parameter side is actually a float. There are many different types available, for example integer, float, list, and I would highly recommend you to look at this web page on Python's documentation about typing. Yeah, it's a very nice read. And from the next video, we are going to dive into Fast API. See you soon.